friends, and welcome back to The Controversial Mom. I'm Emily Jones, and I'm here to dive into the bold topics that matter most to you and to your family. Now, over the past few weeks, we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence and how it threatens our data privacy. And let me tell you, I have received so many messages from moms, dads, and just concerned citizens who are really waking up to what's not only happening in our schools, but also happening behind our screens. That conversation lit a fire, and it's not going out anytime soon. But today, we're shifting from digital threats to global ones, because what's happening across the ocean directly affects what's happening here at home. And President Trump's 2025 travel ban is a clear sign that America is done taking a knee. 12 countries have been fully banned. 7 others are facing new restrictions. And now, with the U.S. standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel in a major military strike, we're sending a very clear message. America will not be ignored, we will not be manipulated, and we certainly will not be invaded. So how do these bold moves shape our national security, our sovereignty, and our future as a free people? Well, let's look at the facts and figure it out. The original Trump ban was one of the most hotly contested policies of his first term. Critics, of course, called all of this discriminatory, and his supporters, of course, said it was all necessary. And now, after everything we've seen under the Biden administration, the open borders, the rise in the cartel activity, broken promises on immigration, I think some of those early critics are really starting to see things in a different light. As a mom, I really don't have the luxury of pretending that things are okay when they're not. I see the headlines, I hear the stories from other parents, and I feel the fear when I think about who actually might be slipping through some of these cracks. That's not a political thing, that's a maternal thing. And it's exactly why these travel bans make sense to people like me. But let's be honest, as a mom, I'm really tired of being told that things are fine when clearly they are not. We were told the border was secure. We were told that vetting systems were airtight. We were told that letting everyone into the country was the kind thing to do. But when you're raising kids in today's world, you learn really quick that kindness without boundaries leads to major pain. Compassion without caution is not a noble thing. It is a reckless thing. The 2025 version of the travel ban is a much smarter policy than before. It's not about banning everyone from a particular region. It's about assessing risk in regions and making informed decisions based on those real-world threats. So right now, 12 countries are fully banned from entering the country. Some of those countries include Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Iran, and Venezuela. Each of these countries has major problems. It's terrorism, failed governments, zero identification systems, and some are just outright hostile towards the United States. And absolutely none of this is guesswork. It is all based on real data and common sense policy. On top of that, we have 7 other countries, including Nigeria, Lebanon, Pakistan, and even Cuba, that are facing limited bans on visas and green cards. Again, this is very targeted and fact-based. It reflects each country's level of cooperation with U.S. intelligence. And then on top of all of that, we have 36 more nations that are under review. When I look at this situation holistically, all this tells me is that this current administration is not reactive. They're scanning the horizon for potential threats, and they're preparing accordingly to protect our country. This travel ban is not about racial profiling. It is 100% risk profiling. And as a mom, I say if a country can't verify someone's identity, you should not be allowed to step foot on U.S. soil. Period. We don't know who you are. So obviously, I fully support these travel bans. They help protect our economy, our values, but most importantly, they protect our children and our families. So let's pivot a little bit and talk about Iran. because this weekend a little bit of history was made. I'm sure everyone out there is fully aware that last weekend, the U.S. joined Israel in a very powerful military strike against 3 of the Iranian nuclear facilities. Fordo, plus 2 other ones that I'm not going to attempt to say because I will just make a fool of myself. But we joined forces with Israel, and we dropped 6 bunker buster bombs by our B-2 bombers. There were also 30 Tomahawk missiles launched by our naval forces. And at the end of the mission, of course, President Trump proudly came out and declared this a very successful attack. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything because that's just not who I am. But let's be real honest here. Iran has been a ticking time bomb for years. This is the same regime that chants death to America, that funds terrorist groups like Hezbollah, and of course lies to the world about their true nuclear goals. And that's why all of this matters, because Iran is on the full travel ban list. So when the Trump administration says these bans are fully tied to our national security, that is exactly what they mean. Nothing about any of this is a symbolic gesture. This is a real, true strategy aimed at protecting our country. Now, as someone who vividly remembers 9/11 and who watches the Middle East with a mother's bleeding heart, because what happens there is so sad, I can still tell you that I support this very decisive action. I do not want another generation growing up with the fear of nuclear war. The media frames every single bit of this as being reckless, but I can tell you what's reckless is ignoring threats in our country, trusting known terrorists, and pretending that this global evil doesn't exist. Now, under President Trump, we have a commander-in-chief who acts with clarity and strength, and I thank God for that every single day. But now, let's tackle the narrative that the left loves, that America is isolating itself. They say the travel ban is xenophobic or whatever phobic they can come up with. They say that it's anti-immigrant and that it makes our country look heartless. But here's what I have to say. Open borders does not make us welcoming. It makes us weak. We've all seen the footage. Women that are raped on their journey here. Children that are trafficked like cattle. Drugs that are pouring into our schools. And terror suspects that are slipping through every loophole imaginable. None of that is compassion. That is pure chaos, and that leads to crime in our local communities. This travel ban is about one simple thing: verification. It is in no way about discrimination. If your country cannot confirm your identity, if your government is a failed state, or if you are coming from a known terrorist zone, you are not owed entry into our country. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Now, let's connect a few dots here. Iran is not just some faraway land. It is a nation that openly threatens the safety of the United States. They fund terrorism and they openly defy the world. That is why they are on the travel ban list. So when President Trump authorized strikes, he wasn't being impulsive. He was being very decisive. He didn't wait for the UN to hold another committee meeting. He simply took action and he sent a very clear message. The safety of the American people will come first. That is not isolation. That is leadership. And for families like mine and yours, that's the kind of leadership that helps us sleep better at night. That is not isolationism, that's sovereignty. So now we have to ask ourselves, what's really next? We need to continue cheering on bold leadership. We need to check our brains at the door. We as conservatives must always think long term. We need to ask the critical questions. Are future bans grounded in facts and reviewed regularly? Are our enemies watching and recalculating based on the strengths that we've displayed on the battlefield? And are we upholding the Constitution while also guarding the nation? And here's the thing. We can stand behind strong policy, but we must also demand excellence. Supporting bold leadership does not mean we turn off critical thinking. It means that we stay engaged. It means that we hold the line. And it means that we keep our expectations high. We don't need reactionary swings every 4 years. We need consistency. We need clarity. And we need a commander-in-chief who understands that peace really only comes through strength. President Trump had to make hard calls, and he did it within the law, and he did it with the American people on the forefront of his mind. That is the kind of leadership that we must always demand, today and tomorrow. We are truly living in consequential times, and as a mom, I think about what kind of country my kids will inherit. Will they grow up in a place that defends its borders and protects its people? Or will they be forced to live in fear while our leaders appease foreign threats and ignore the consequences of their actions? These are not just talking points. These are really, truly kitchen table conversations. This is what I pray about regularly. This is what keeps parents up at night. So yes, it does matter who we elect. It matters what policies we support. And it matters that we speak up when the media tries to spin the truth and erase our values. We are not extremists for loving our country. We are not radicals for wanting safer communities. We are not out of line for expecting our government to simply do their job. Who enters the country? Who leads these agencies? Who we strike overseas? These are not just policies. They're choices that shape our culture, our safety, and our sovereignty. They may call us controversial, but in the end, we know the truth. Standing for what's right is never the wrong thing to do, and we're going to keep standing. Now, looking ahead to next week's episode, I'm going to break down how these district courts are really and truly blocking Trump's executive orders through these nationwide injunctions and how ridiculous it all is. And we're going to talk about what that means to states' rights, local control, and the future of federalism in America. Until then, friends, stay informed, stay strong, but most of all, stay controversial.